Sawadee Krab and welcome to another episode here for the Funkit Pod. A bit later than usual, but still almost on schedule, so not that much. I'm just German, so I feel bad if I don't stick to the exact schedule that I usually stick to. Still here in my green studio, as you can see. The last time moving tomorrow, so then I'll try to have a similar setting because I kind of like it now actually, because I want to show off that I'm in Thailand. So why not doing it outside as long as the sound is okay. Let's jump right into it because I don't have that much time today, as I have to go to the hospital, not for myself, but actually to visit my girlfriend there, as she's been in the hospital for a while now. And that's actually also the one thing I want to talk about on this Thailand Tuesday part of the Funkit Pod. Hospitals in Thailand, because we're still in it, but we also overcame a few hospital scares right now. So what happened is we've been on a weekend trip to the beach, and then she said, I'm not feeling that great, I feel a bit dizzy. She had it a few times before, but usually just relaxed a little bit, didn't do much, slept for an hour or two, and then it was okay again. But now she said she also had it during work, which I didn't know. So then I'm okay. We're going. Let's just drive back home. It's 90 minutes from that beach town that we've been to. Let's drive back to Bangkok, and then let's just go to the hospital right away. So we went back to Bangkok, brought my cats home here, let them run around, and then just straight to the hospital. We went to a hospital that's close to where I live, and which is downtown Bangkok. And thought, okay, now for the checkup, let's just go to don't think about the costs, gonna be a checkup, whatever. Let's go to one of those fancy hospitals with a good reputation. So it's a quite expensive hospital, but we thought, okay, maybe it's worth it. So we went in there. And then here in Thailand, you always have to go to the emergency room right away. When you go to the hospital, you're more likely than not end up in the emergency room for a first check, and then they send you somewhere else. So then we went into the emergency room, and then they checked blood pressure and whatnot, and they're like, symptoms, so you're feeling dizzy, you have headache, you don't have COVID. They tested for COVID right away, of course, and it's the flu. And then she was like, yeah, but that doesn't feel like the flu. It feels worse, the headache is worse, and it feels different to a migraine. She also suffered from migraines before, so she said that's not the same, it's different. And so the emergency room doctor actually wanted to send us back home with a flu, and then the ER doctor turns to me, it's like, does she look more yellow than usual? And I'm like, she's Thai. I'm like, okay, we're in the ER, let's not do that. I'm sorry. So I said, yeah, she looks different. She looks way more tired and everything. So maybe it's more. And then they said, okay, let's check the blood. Then they checked the blood, and then they're like, okay, blood tests. So no actual disease within the blood. But, maybe I'm allergic to all those plants here. So they said there's no disease to be found, but all the blood levels are super low, the counts. So all the blood levels are low, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, I think is what you call it. So then oh no, you can't go home at all right now. Definitely not. So that changed from it's just a flu, go home, to don't go home. So then they send us to a room, got a room ready for her, which is a fancy-ish room, costs 9,000 baht per night. And then, of course, you have to add on all the extra services that you get, that they keep you alive, for example. So then they gave her some infusions to stabilize her system for a bit. So she started to feel a little bit better. But then they're like, hey, because of that, your blood won't get thick, when you get cut or something. So then, no toothbrushing, no nothing, just so that she doesn't bleed anywhere. And then fair enough, the nurses then up there are super nice, and once you're in that fancy room, they're super nice to you. Then the doctor comes in, right? So it's a doctor, and she came in and she's like, okay, I'm looking at your symptoms, and I'm looking at the blood count and everything, the results from the blood test, and giving my expertise, and I'm an expert in this field. She repeated, I'm an expert in this field. I think it's a tumor. And we're like, either tumor or cancer. That's what she said. And so you're like, what? An hour ago you tried to send us home, and now it's a tumor or cancer. So you're quite shocked when you hear that, right? And the doctor just threw it out there, which really upset me. Of course, that could be the case, but just throwing it out there like this, just casually, I think you either got a brain tumor or you got blood cancer. You're like, what? That really upset me, that the doctor, because the doctor is supposed to be trained for that, right? To be ease you in and not just That's it. And the conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. She's like, I think you should do an MRI just to see. But yeah, giving my expertise, I think that's really it. What? And then the doctor, verbatim, the doctor said, but it's up to you, and then just left. What? I got so upset. I of course, I didn't say anything because you don't want to get the patient right up, obviously. But what the hell? I got so mad at the doctor. Ridiculous. Anyways, since she didn't have insurance, so we had to pay. We paid this all from out of our pocket. So like, damn it, what does your insurance cover? Her insurance covers another hospital. Don't get me started at the insurance stuff here in Thailand. So then we said, okay, we're gonna move to the other hospital tomorrow, but now let's do the check to finalize everything here. So then we did the MRI there, which is negative, so it's no brain tumor. Thank you, doctor. The doctor is then like, okay, it's no brain tumor, so then I guess it's blood cancer. So she was kind of like disappointed it's not a tumor, and she's like, okay, now you have cancer. That doctor is just terrible. Like, I will never go back to that hospital ever again. Ridiculous. Even though it's the closest to where I live right now, but we'll never go back. Ridiculous. Really mad at that doctor. The nurses were awesome, by the way. They were super nice. Doctor, terrible. Another doctor then came the next day, just like checking in on the blood results again and checking in on like how we do it with moving hospitals and so on. He was cool. He was nicer. He was more comforting. What you expect from a doctor, yet telling you what's up, but not just like, okay, you got tumor or cancer. So then eventually second day staying in hospital, getting blood infusions. I don't want to go into detail. Don't want to share too much privacy stuff there, of course. But then the night of the second day, then we transferred to the hospital that's covered by the insurance, which is partly, I think, governmental hospital. So then again, stay in the emergency room first. And oh my lord, like this partly governmental hospital, not quite sure. It's like in a bad TV show. It looks terrible. It's dirty. There's no aircon in the waiting area, for example, in the emergency area. There are like beds in the parking lot, just separated by like a plastic wall. So she had to stay there during the night, and I couldn't stay with her because I said no people allowed in the ER, even though random people are walking into the ER in and out with like coffee in their hands and whatnot, but they wouldn't allow me in. So she had to stay in the ER. I had to stay outside. Again, no aircon or anything. And I don't want to sound like a fancy, you know what? But if there's no aircon, then there are lots of mosquitoes, and that can't be good in a place that people go with like flu, COVID, dengue, whatever, right? So that was just ridiculous. No fans either, like in the waiting area. So I felt I got bitten by mosquitoes while I was waiting, which I don't think can be ideal in a hospital where sick people are running around. Just saying. So then it took like until like 2 or 3 a.m. at night until they brought her to a station, like a station with like 20 people on like one big room basically. Lots of noise because people are in pain and so on. So great, of course, she's freaking out. Doctors don't have time there because it's just super crowded, but communicate better, I think. They because they don't have time for BS or to maybe upsell stuff like what the doctor at the fancy hospital tried. Like, you have to do the MRI so I earn more money, maybe. So they just straight to the point. They're like, hey, okay, cool, you're here. You have this. We should do this. On Monday we have this procedure scheduled, checking whatever. All right, okay, cool. So they're communicating a bit more. The nurses also seem all right. On her third day, the visiting hours are only for 2 hours a day, which is a bit annoying. So they kicked me out and like, you can come here only for 2 hours when everybody's coming, and then there's only like one person per patient allowed in a room because COVID restrictions. There are like 20 people in the elevator up to the floor, but then you can only go in like one person per bed. Okay, anyways, so now she's there. Now yesterday they moved her to another floor into the aircon unit because apparently the cold surrounding is better for white blood cells, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that the blood cells are regenerating faster, at least. That's what I understood. So now she's in an aircon unit in a room with 5 people, which is a bit nicer and manageable. Still only 2 hours visiting time, which is a bit annoying, but we make it work, of course. You can send stuff, and then the security will bring it up if you send it outside of visiting hours. So I send always food in the morning because the food looks like prison food. It's like rice water. That's what she called it, because it's not soup. It's like rice water and some disgusting stuff. And so I always cook at night and then send the food in the morning with Grab, and then in the afternoon when they're visiting us, I go visit, of course. And so yeah, that's where we're at right now. I just felt like talking about that hospital experience because that fancy hospital was just terrible. The first doctor just tried to scare us into whatever. Even, you should have been trained to explain this to people better, that you might have cancer or whatever, but not just like tumor or cancer. What you do now is up to you. Like, what? And that really riled me up. Now in a government hospital, the circumstances, how it looks like, especially the ER, was crazy, of course. Now in a room with like 5 people, it seems a little bit more chill, so it's easier to sleep and to recover, I think. And the blood counts go up now, which is fine, which is nice. So we're happy about that. But yeah, so the doctor in the private hospital, ridiculous, and then the circumstances in the government hospital are just crazy. Like the ER, seeing the discrepancy was just shocking to me, like for real, like shocking. Yeah, but props to the doctors now. Tomorrow, that procedure, I might talk about it, and once it's done, and then we see where we at. Right, so yeah, that's the Thailand corner part of the Funkit Pod this week. That hospital experience really, that got me thinking. Let me know what your experience is, of course. Curious to hear that. All right, that's the Thailand Tuesday part. Talk to you soon, I guess, from the new location. Sawadee krap.